Rick, I'm ready to do this. Are you?
Yes, sir. What are we talking about, buddy?
I thought we introduced a topic, and I'd love for you to go first. The title is Challenges are Wonderful Opportunities to Work on Yourself. Why don't you start us?
Wow, what a big topic and what an important one. I think the starting point is just to recognize that life is difficult and that we're not bad people because our lives are tough. Lives are tough for all of us, and even though it looks like it might be smooth and other people are doing better at managing their chaos than I am or we are, that's probably an illusion. It's probably not true. And so I think once we accept the idea that there is essentially a whole lifetime of suffering, in essence, that's going to come our way, then we can start making some decisions about how we want to deal with what comes at us. The externals, again, are never controllable. The only thing that we can control is our attitude about what happens in our minds and in our hearts and our souls about how we deal with what comes at us. So life is very difficult for sure. I was just reading a book. In fact, I'm glad you brought this topic up because the book is right here about crises, dealing with crises. And the reason why that's important to me is that I'm working on a case right now where I'm not going to give you the facts, but a lot of horrific things have happened to the person that I'm representing. And it goes way beyond what I can do for her as a lawyer. And so one of the things I've been trying to do is to get her into some counseling and to get her into a professional atmosphere where she could grow and understand some things. Um, During that transition period of me helping her get through this, I've sort of studied this myself. And I came across a very interesting book, which is called The Transformative Power of Crisis. And the subtitle is called Our Journey to Psychological Healing and Spiritual Awakening. I don't know
Mm.
these folks, but let me show you the book here. It's the book. It's written by a psychoanalyst and also a social worker. She's Harvard, he's Brandeis, I think, and Cornell. Um, but they basically do a lot of vignettes and talk about things that are of interest to all of us. And the first principle is that you have the power within yourself to be mindful of what it is that's coming your way and to create a strategy that will help you out of that. And one of the first strategies that's discussed is the idea of detachment, if that's possible. Some people are so powerfully traumatized that other things are needed. Obviously, you need some counseling. You may need some pharmacological medications. You might need some help in other directions as well. But the idea is that their crisis can be an opportunity to shift and to change. And I'm thinking because you've experienced that yourself.
Yeah, Rick, you're so right, man. It's interesting that when we are watching movies or documentaries, and we see the main character go through a crisis, uh, and they come out on the other side, we cheer that. But when a crisis shows up for us, we, we want no part of it. I mean, we applaud the growth that the protagonist experienced along the way and how they came on the other side. And we can, really see and acknowledge like all the growth that and learning that came from that experience and how they're a better person on the other side of it. But it's really hard when you're going through something to do that. And the reason it's hard is because of attachment. You're attached to uh, it changing. You're attached to wanting it to be different. You're attached to all every bit of it. But you brought a good point, from the authors that the first step is to really practice being mindful and detaching, which is often so difficult, but it can happen with practice. I've really experienced a lot of opportunities, and the title of this is Challenges Are Wonderful Opportunities to Grow, is that those challenges have been really my ability to get on the other side of it has been because I practice detachment. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. So it's best that I don't do it for outcome. And, and when you do that, man, it's just amazing how much growth you have along the way and how open you are. I think that's another thing. When you are so attached to outcome, you come up with your mind, at least my mind comes up with a certain way that it has to play out to get this outcome. But there is a infinite number of possibilities or iterations that can occur, during that process that may produce a different outcome, which if you are so locked in and so specific about how it has to happen, you miss getting the very thing that you would appreciate and want. So, for example, let's say you're going for a health crisis, but along the way, your experiences up until this point have made rules about who can be helpful to you. So it's a
Oh,
health crisis and you need an organ, your loved one needs an organ or a transplant or whatever else, but you're very specific that the people that you get the organ for, your loved one gets the organ from has to look a certain way, believe a certain thing, practice a certain way in their life. So you will potentially rule out other people that can help you in ways that literally save your life. And so this is what I mean is being detached also from the ideas of the way you think it has to be for it to work or for it to be beneficial to you. And that's been really good for me. When people at Mayo Clinic sometimes come to me and like, man, you got the best job. Like I would love to have your job. And I'm like, you do. That's my job is about serving others. So you got my job, like, so it's not enough that you have the job. It's like, what are you going to make the job? Who are you going to be as you do the job? If you work on who you're being as you do the job, you will have all the joy in that I have every single day, and with that are going to come these challenges and these crises. And what are you going to do with them? Are you going to be attached, which really means for me, it meant shutting down to how this could be beneficial to me, or you're going to be detached. And when you detach from what this can mean for your career, man, it's a beautiful thing. I was talking to someone, Rick, and this is kind of related, who was talking about their career. And they were asking me for advice about how to get an idea uh, moved forward. And I talked about how, well, have you talked to the stakeholders? Like talk to them. She's like, well, and expand the people that who can contribute to the idea by giving constructive feedback to it. They'll help you make it better. They're like, well, I'm not into politicking. I'm like, who mentioned politicking? I'm not, I don't play that game of helping others. Like, okay, if that's a game, we don't play it. But when a crisis occurs for us or a challenge, and in this case, our challenge was really trying to move a project forward, the idea of being open to it being designed a different way, of going about a different way, it was lost on them, just like it's been lost on me. And when I've gone through some very specific challenges in my life, Rick, it never occurred to me to work on myself. It just occurred to me to try to make this thing end. But I mean, like I want it to go away. But really the way for it to go away is to work on you. Like work on you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, so I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this. This is a big, big topic in my life because it ties in to something that is uncomfortable, but in the same way, it is growth oriented that completely transforms your life. In 2008, I went through a divorce that cleaned me out financially. And I basically had to start over after that divorce settlement. Um, and it was the circumstances of the divorce and why it happened were so difficult for me. I just couldn't figure out how I was going to change. And like you, I kept looking at ways I could make this end. How can I bring this to a close? And I was bitter, I was angry, and all of the rest of it. Well, here's what I'm getting at. that was a crisis in my life that allowed me to start thinking about things that I had been reading about all my life, which is the quote, hero's journey. And guys like Joe Campbell and other authors have talked about what that means. And essentially what it involves is someone, an average person, every person has this capability of seeing an obstacle or seeing a series of obstacles or being trapped in an environment that is impossible or not working. And as soon as you get leverage on yourself where you think, nothing can be worse than this, I'm going to change, things start to move in your favor and the world comes to your aid and opens up and helps you go that way, go the way that will solve it. So the hero's journey is about leaving the past, jumping into the unknown, the complete ambiguity of complete change,
Mm.
and leaving something that you love behind, shedding all of your comfort. The BMW goes, the mansion in the McDowell Mountain Ranch goes, the nice clothes go, the feeling like I'm a powerful lawyer goes. And so I was at the rock bottom. And what I did was, I bought a ticket and went overseas for 3 months with a backpack. And I just let the chips fall. And Keith, that was the most rewarding, powerful, important experience of my life. And the reason for it was that I was totally unfocused on myself. I just said, whatever shows up, man, whatever shows up, I give a damn. Go ahead. Can't hit me any harder. Go ahead. And little by little, every day was just instructive. Give you an example. Walking on a plane, I was in India. In India, they have these old planes that we don't even use anymore, like the old DC-9s. And in the old DC-9s, they used to have this webbing up above the seats. And you'd throw your luggage up there, and there's a web, like net that holds the luggage in. Well, in India, every seat is sold, and the plane is oversold. And frankly, they allow people to stand and sit in the jump seats. And these people will have folks sitting on top of their laps. And babies, they'll put their kids up in these netting, these netting things. I mean, it's completely foreign to us. And so I was looking at that and I thought, my God, that's really crazy. Well, I just didn't know what to do except to go along with it. So I was helping people put their kids up in this netting. I mean, things like that. It was the strangest damn thing. And mine couldn't come up with, why people would do that. But I was recognizing in myself an ability to get out of the way that I'd always looked at my life. And I changed completely from that trip. I was gone 3 months, as I say, with a backpack and no itinerary. I just wandered around. I had about close to 1 million flight miles from practicing law for so many years and traveling over long distances in the States to take depositions. So I have basically, it was a free trip for me. I had business class around the world. And I stayed away for 3 months. Didn't cost me a dime airfare wise, cost me, housing and all of the rest. But my point is, that was Rick Strom's personal hero's journey. And I came back transformed, even though I gave up so much. I had to give that up in order to come to the other side of that obstacle, of that feeling that I was devastated and a worthless human being and an emasculated man. I had to do that trip. I had to take that journey in order for me to get on the other side. Now, one last point. If you don't take that journey, if you let the obstacle rule you, if you stay in the groove, you'll get what you've continued to get and what you don't want.
Rick, I couldn't agree more. Wow. I remember when you were going through the divorce, and I remember where you were before. And I remember how you talked about it. And I remember how you came back and you were completely different. Mm. I mean, I think with every mile of that trip abroad, you let go more and more of yourself, the personal self. And you came back just completely different. And, Tim and I benefited from the way you came back. And it became really a roadmap for both of us who went through, relationships ending in ways that we didn't want. I'll close with this. is that, this idea of crisis and challenges being these wonderful opportunities to grow. And with the authors that you introduced earlier about, the psychological benefits that a crisis offers, I completely agree. And I think that, to your point, what can make a crisis worse psychologically, emotionally? Me. All the external forces, be what they may, I can make it worse.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, by staying rooted with this limited mindset, with not working on myself, with not seeing it as an opportunity. That bottom that I'm on, there's one beneath that one. And I can go there just like this. And I will have only myself as the responsible party for it. And that's just, it's remarkable about that. When we're unconscious, we become the responsible party. But when we practice consciousness, we become that presence that can literally free us from it, and so that we can grow and emerge, different than we were before. I mean, that to me is so encouraging. It is, to know that I have the power when I'm practicing being conscious, when I'm working on myself, not on others. Before I began to work on the situation and try to interact with the crisis to turn it around, I got to start with me first, And I'm a big believer. Like, if you don't go through something, get something for it. And so if I'm gonna go through a crisis, man, I don't want to come out of it on the other side or worse. I want to come out of it better.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have done that really well to help each other do that over the last, over the last decade plus. So thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Keith. Always grateful for ToBeRe, always grateful for your instruction. I tell people all the time, I was on the wrong path, and ToBeRe and Keith Jones saved my life.
Wow. Thank you, Rick. I love you.
I love you, buddy. Adios.
Adios.